everybody. Welcome to the Abroaders Travel Podcast, your weekly meetup with thousands of entrepreneurs, hustlers, creators, nomads, ninjas, wanderers, and world changers, all seeking to build the skills and connections to live a life without borders. If you want to learn more about what we do or download our entire podcast archive, check out the website, abroaders.com. Happy Thursday morning and welcome to another episode of the Abroaders Podcast. I'm Eric here with AJ in Austin, Texas. This is episode 196 for Thursday, November 16th, 2017. How's it going, AJ?
Going well, man. Going well. We got a good show today.
Yes, we do.
I'm looking forward to some of the stuff we're going to share.
Yeah, a lot of news this week. So top stories include a new major airline frequent flyer transfer partner for Citi ThankYou Rewards, two new ones for Chase Ultimate Rewards, and also a surprise devaluation from Singapore Krisflyer for their StarAlliance Partner Award Chart, and only 3 weeks advance notice to make any bookings before prices go up. And prices are going up for quite a few different redemptions. So it's not a huge one, but it's definitely a pretty big piece of news and was totally unexpected. Pretty short notice. So we're going to cover all that. We've also got a couple of listener success stories. Thanks so much to you guys for writing in. And we've got a new big offer from Abroaders that's designed especially for the do-it-yourself travel hacker. So first up, I want to share some details about what we've been working on for the last few months. We've spent a lot of time thinking about what we can do outside of the podcast to empower travelers to get more value from points and miles. It took you and I a really long time to get to the point where we were experts on this stuff, and the learning curve was really steep. There were a lot of mistakes that we could have avoided if we had the right information at the right time. And one of the big problems, even now, is staying up to date on everything that is taking place. It can be like trying to take a sip of water from a fire hose. Every week we review somewhere around 500 articles. There's 3 of us that work on producing the show. And so roughly 500 blog posts for the podcast. And there's a lot of really valuable information that ends up going into internal resources that we use for the booking service. And, basically that we just don't have enough time to put on the show, or that it's not immediately a newsworthy event, but it's important to know if you're trying to book tickets. So for the last 3 weeks or so, we've been working really hard on building the community that we would have wanted to be a part of when we first started travel hacking, and that also gives us access to all the tools and information that we've been accumulating that saves us time and helps us stretch our points even further now that we're experts.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this because we created this for the podcast listener, the hobbyist, the do-it-yourselfer. Abroaders community. Everything you need to win the miles game at a price everyone can afford. That's kind of the way we think about it. So it's designed to give you, the do-it-yourselfer, all of the educational materials needed to learn how to be a pro, as well as the tools and support necessary to do everything in a sane, sustainable fashion. As an Abroaders community member, you'll stay up to date on opportunities to earn and redeem miles without spending hours reading blogs. You'll get breaking news and deals that will help you book your next trip faster with community deal alerts. You can ask any question you want about earning or redeeming miles from your phone, tablet, or computer and get an answer. Whether it be Eric, me, or a community member, there are a lot of great travel hacking brains in the community private Slack channel. Also, learn the strategy, process, and hacks we've used to save our customers well over $1 million on flights with the community video resource library. And finally, get access to a curated list of our top resources, whether it's a tool for award availability, an alliance route map, or a niche tool helping you find great deals on award hotel stays with the Community Travel Hackers Toolbox. So everything you need to win the miles game at a price that everyone can afford. Just $9 a month, or you can get a 50% discount when you purchase a year through midnight Eastern Standard Time on Monday, November 27th. Check it out at abroaders.com/community.
I love those Cyber Monday promotions.
Yeah, man.
Super excited about that. Hope we'll see a lot of you guys in the community. Let's get on to news and updates.
Yeah.
All right, so first up, let's talk about Avianca Lifemiles. They are the newest transfer partner of Citi ThankYou Rewards. Citi is, up until now has probably been the weakest in terms of having access to good transfer partners compared to Chase and American Express. They've been doing a lot of work to improve the program.
The Citi points and their value has improved, but I think there's just a lot of ground to cover when you consider kind of where Amex and Chase were a couple of years ago against Citi, but Citi's slowly closing the gap, and this is really good news that there's just another place you can put your Citi points, and Avianca's got a pretty interesting award chart as well.
Yes, they do. So we reported a little while back that they had added Turkish miles. Turkish Airlines frequent flyer program was the most recent before this week. And that one is also a StarAlliance program, but Lifemiles, I think, is a much more compelling transfer partner that they've added to your list of options. And so we're going to run through a few of the highlights here. So for the most part, this program is going to have a lot of overlap with United and with all the other programs in StarAlliance. So the majority of their booking partners are StarAlliance. There's one really notable exception to that, and that is that they also can book flights on Iberia, so the Spanish national carrier, which is a member of One World Alliance.
Right.
And there's some interesting rates for that. But for the most part, I want to focus on what makes this program particularly interesting for folks that may have other options to use different StarAlliance programs, and why this one may be a better deal than some of the others. So first up is that with Avianca Lifemiles, the United States is divided into 3 subregions. You can basically think of it as East, Central, and West. And there's also sort of the rest of North America is sort of a group, which is Alaska and Hawaii and Canada. But the interesting thing here is within the U.S., there's a new, pretty exciting opportunity for discounted award flights within a single region. So, for example, the East Coast, if you're flying from any region to the same region. So the line of division is basically that the central region is the mountain time zone and the central time zone, and the East region or region 1 is everything in the Eastern time zone.
Yep.
The line for us Michigan people is Detroit's in the East and Chicago's in the central. But so traveling within any region is going to be 7,500 points each direction to travel, compared with United's award chart, which is 12,500.
Yeah, so think New York to Miami.
Yeah,
You know.
there's some really good opportunities with that. There's also from the central time zone region or the central region to the east, there is a 10,000 point award. And then everything else, so east and central out to the west is still 12,500. So no big change versus United with those. But for shorter flights, there are definitely some advantages. And when you're looking at this for booking, a round trip ticket, especially if you're traveling with somebody else, those savings can add up quite a bit. It's also comparable to British Airways. So if you're flying with BA points on American, the lowest it can cost for direct flights is 7,500. Right. So that might be a similarity, but this one doesn't penalize you for stopovers. So if you need to connect, it's still the same price as long as your destination is in the same region. And that's actually something that you brought up to me. You've got some hidden ticketing.
Right, yeah, exactly. Here. So, I mean, the hypothetical could look like if for some reason you were going from Austin to Chicago via Detroit, you could get off in Detroit and save yourself a few thousand miles.
That's a perfect example. So Austin and Chicago are both in the central region. So flights within region 2 are going to cost 7,500 each way. You're going to want to book that as a one-way trip rather than a round trip itinerary. Right. But that gives you the opportunity to just not catch your flight from Detroit to Chicago and get a really good deal on that itinerary. The other thing to be aware of here with the program is that they do have a $25 fee for booking award tickets, and it doesn't matter if you book online or with the phone. The fee is assessed no matter what, so it may be a little bit less value except for more expensive domestic tickets, but there's also some really good international opportunities here. So let's run through the next component that makes this program somewhat unique is that Europe is also divided into 3 regions. And so you've got Northern Europe is region 1. And so that's, for the most part, Ireland and Norway and Sweden and Denmark, just the very top of Europe. But it also includes Russia.
That is interesting.
The entire country of Russia. And there's a little bit of a discount there. So if you're flying from the East Coast to Northern Europe, including Russia, you can book an economy one way for 20,000 points. So
hypothetically, you could fly from Washington, D.C. to Moscow or St. Petersburg for $20K.
Yeah. So pretty cool opportunity there. The central part of Europe is pretty broad. So that's from as far west as Portugal, all the way through, basically Hungary and Poland are the furthest east. It's not really a straight line. But what you can think about as region 3 is Eastern Europe, and that includes the Baltic states. It includes the Balkans, which we had to look up, make sure we had our info right. And, also, so it's got Greece and everything to the east, more or less. So the big news here is
really, sorry to cut you off, man, but it's interesting to me to think that flying to Greece is going to be more miles than flying to Russia.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. So we don't have time, obviously, to go through the entire award chart here, but those are kind of the notable divisions that make things interesting. I've also got a couple of highlights from the rest of the world. I mentioned the $20K from the East Coast to Northern Europe. It's $30K to the rest of Europe, so it's on par with a lot of other programs. It's also either 60 or 63K from the US to Europe, all regions. So again, relatively competitive. In particular, the nice thing with this is that United charges $55 for United flights, but for StarAlliance flights, you're looking at $70. And so this program, in a lot of these cases, this program, Avianca, is better for StarAlliance flights. Any flight that maybe does include United, but it's not all United, is going to have that price increase through the Mileage Plus program. And so with Avianca Lifemiles, if you have to include StarAlliance carriers, you're probably going to do better than United in a lot of cases. The other big overarching theme here is that Avianca does not add fuel surcharges. There are some pretty modest, reasonable fees for tickets. It's kind of a bummer that you have to pay that $25 fee even with online bookings. But if you compare that to a lot of programs that charge $300 worth of fuel surcharges to Europe, that's still a huge savings. A couple of other highlights from around the world here. We've got North America to Central America. Is going to be a little bit cheaper than United. So you got $14,000 for economy one way, $28,000 for business. Compare that to $17,500 and $35,000. A little bit of a savings, especially if a couple of passengers are on a round trip. Brazil is singled out in this award chart, which is very, very exciting for me. So the rest of South America, Southern South America, so I assume Argentina and Chile, those are $60,000 business class one way, but Brazil is $50,000 business class, which can be a really good opportunity. United's going to be probably your main carrier on that route. But
I wonder, I would imagine in some scenarios, Miami, Bogota, Rio, Miami, Bogota, Sao Paulo.
Well, and the other thing is Avianca has a really nice business class. They are a step above the United business class product. Even the new Polaris, at least from feedback I've gotten from booking clients that fly United and have flown Avianca and said, put me on Avianca if you have a chance to do so. So there's some great products for flights if you want to connect in Bogota and fly. And they've got a nice network. They fly to a lot of places, including in Europe. Let's see, any other big ones? There's a few different first class wins.
There's a pretty big gap in North Asia. 90K versus 120K?
Right,
That's so substantial.
Only for first class, but with United, again, the StarAlliance prices are substantially higher for first class. And like one of the other ones is South Africa, where it's ridiculous that United even has a United-only award chart for South Africa because they don't fly there. And so, 105 versus 130 on United for first class to South Africa. North Asia, like you said, is a good one, and Southeast Asia is also about 30,000 miles cheaper than the United chart. Last kind of thing to mention about this, I transferred 1,000 points to do a little test on Sunday. So that would have been about 6:30 p.m. and it is Tuesday evening, so it's almost 48 hours after here, and I have not seen those points post. It looks like we're going to be dealing with at least a 48-hour transfer time, which can be problematic for making these redemptions, especially when there's a limited number of seats. But I'm still super happy to see this program. Last thing, I guess, is also that Avianca, number one, they allow you to book a ticket if you only have 40% of the miles you need and buy the rest of the miles. So if you're short on miles...
Does that mean you can put do they allow you to put a hold on flights?
I don't know what the hold policy is. It depends sometimes a bit on the partners as well. I don't think there's no significant hold that we can count on here.
Okay, because I was going to say that could be a strategy to transfer over some extra points to give yourself like that 40% needed if that was what was required to put a hold on it. I didn't know if that was like a threshold, but that's interesting. So 40% of the miles, and then they'll let you buy the rest at like a prorated.
And I don't know what the price is, but the other thing is that these guys sell miles a lot at good rates. You know, they have sort of been the StarAlliance business class wholesaler for a very long time. If you're into buying points, and so there's no amazing promotions that are going on right now that are worth mentioning, but occasionally they do have good bonuses. And so this is a scenario where if you don't have enough for your round trip business or first class ticket, but you think you might be able to use life miles, it might be a scenario where you can clear out a number of points from Citi that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to put to good use and easily buy the rest of the points at a pretty reasonable rate and get a great deal on business class. So we will report back when we get this transfer time window narrowed down here, but it looks like at least 2 days. So you don't want to be depending on one seat on one flight that's available. Moving on, the next story is Chase Ultimate Rewards is following suit. Kind of interesting that they made these announcements. I mean, these things take a lot of time to put together, set up the technical infrastructure. You don't just decide on a Friday afternoon that you're going to add a transfer partner and announce it the next week. So these guys just kind of happen to come out with pretty big news at the same time. I wonder if Citi sort of stole Chase's thunder or vice versa on the announcement here. But Chase has added Iberia and AerLingus as transfer partners. So both of those are also one-to-one transfer partners. The thing about this one is it's not nearly as significant as the Citi transfer partner edition because Chase already transferred to British Airways one-to-one. And those transfers are instant. And British Airways Avios can transfer to AerLingus and Iberia, but it's an extra step. It's a bit of a pain to do it, and you have to have your addresses matching with the account. So in other words, if you want to take Executive Club, BA Avios, and move them over to Iberia, you've got to have the accounts for like 90 days, I think, and the address has to be the same. I've never been able to get it to work for my accounts. I don't know if there's a comma or something in the wrong place with one of my addresses, but it can be a bit of a technical pain in the ass. And so this is it simplifies things. Advantages as well, if you transfer Chase to AerLingus, if that's your end destination, you want to book with AerLingus, pricing is pretty much the same as BA, but you can book AerLingus online with AerLingus miles, whereas you have to call British Airways. That is not something that we enjoy doing. We do it a lot, but it kind of sucks calling British Airways. So that's a nice benefit here that you can just transfer straight to AerLingus, book the ticket online. With Iberia, I think the main takeaway here is that sometimes the taxes and fees can be significantly less than the British Airways taxes and fees. The other thing is that Iberia prices based on total distance rather than per segment. And so at least for some tickets, having additional stops, like if you can get a direct flight and there's one available to your destination, that's good news for you. But a lot of times you need to make a stop on your itinerary. There's just a connection that's going to be required to make the award work. And so with Iberia, it may be quite a bit fewer miles with itineraries that have stops based on their cumulative distance award chart. Downsides with Iberia, just real briefly, the American Airlines awards, so AA is obviously a partner, they're part of One World. They're only allowed to do round trips if you have Iberia miles. So you might be better off transferring your points to British Airways if you want to do a one-way on American.
Man, I'd be curious to hear from the listeners how often they book one-way travel, where I think you and I are very unorthodox, where that's like the bulk of it is just one-way travel, piecing one-way travel together. But I'd be curious how many people piece their own one-way, like two one-ways to make a round trip, where lots of the times we're pretty flexible. We'll just go where we're going and then kind of decide it's time to go somewhere else or come home. But
I will say that we do it more often than not with the booking service. And it's mostly because people like either don't have quite enough points to do a round trip with a single program. It's a taller order to have, 140,000 points if you want to do a business class round trip, or 280 if you're doing it with two people, than to have half in each different type of account. So we do end up piecing them together a lot, but it's something that many people don't even know is an option in terms of constructing these tickets. The other thing, this is a big one with Iberia, is that partner awards are not refundable. So throw out the logic about change fees. Your points are gone if you can't keep your ticket. So anyways, that is the breakdown on Iberia and AerLingus, new Chase transfer partners. I do not either have the transfer times for those. I would think they're instant because everybody else that Chase transfers to, with the exception of Singapore, is instant. But if you're going to make a big transfer, send 1,000 miles first and see how long it takes before you commit to it, because you may be better off using British Airways and making it an instant transfer. All right, let's talk about the Singapore devaluation.
Yeah, man, we've a lot of heavy stuff on transfer partners and charts. So I don't know, man. I was kind of looking over this earlier and kind of comparing the devaluation. It's kind of odd, but it's kind of, I guess, follows the trend of other devaluations where the heavier devaluation on premium cabin space, where economy wasn't like completely gutted or anything, but there was first class travel. I was trying to look at the different sweet spots, but I don't know, man. And also December 7th, right? That's our deadline. So we've only got a few weeks. That's the big thing, is it's a really short time window. Let me run through a couple of basics here for folks that are not super familiar with Singapore. They are transfer with all 4 transferable currencies, so Chase, Amex, Citi, and SPG. They are not instant with anybody, but it's relatively quick. Transfer times for Chase are between 1 and 12 hours. Amex is 24 to 36. Citi's 24 to 72, but typically on the lower end of that. And Starwood is about 7 days. So you've got enough time if you act quickly to make transfers, get points into this program, and then book the ticket. But that's something to keep in mind with this December 7th deadline, is that you can't decide you want to book something on the 6th because your points are not going to post in time if you don't already have Singapore miles there. The other thing is that Singapore miles can book travel 355 days in advance, meaning that you can book through November 27th of 2018. So you've got a pretty long runway here if you want to make a booking or two before this pricing takes effect. And last thing that's, I think, really noteworthy for this is, with the exception of the fact that by transferring miles, you reduce your flexibility a little bit with those miles that could have been transferred to other programs, Singapore has super reasonable change fees. And so if you make a booking that you're, say, 80% sure you're going to be able to use, the worst case scenario is that you pay like $20 or $30 for a change fee to use those miles on a different ticket at a different time. So Singapore is really reasonable about that. That being said, if you use those miles to rebook a ticket after the devaluation happens, you're going to pay the higher price and points. They almost always adjust those tickets upwards. I guess as far as this goes, there's an economy. Like most devaluations as of recently, there's not a huge change anywhere. The Middle East and North Africa went up a little bit. Yeah, the biggest change in economy class is from North America to North Asia. That goes from 45K to 54. So you got a 9,000 mile increase, where North America to the Middle East goes up a decent amount as well. But they're still in the neighborhood where if we move to business and first class, there's some substantial jumps. What stands out to me is, once again, North America to North Asia going from 87.5 to 105. The Southwest Pacific from 97.5 to 117. That's in business class.
Yep. Yeah. So overall, the prices are pretty substantial. Now, one thing to also keep in mind is that a lot of people use Singapore first and foremost for access to Singapore's own business and first class products. And that award chart already got devalued. That happened a few months back. And so, this is something where they're just, essentially making the adjustment on the StarAlliance program, all their partner airlines at a different time. So overall, nothing is changing at the moment with Singapore operated flights, and those are still generally a little bit better deal, a little bit cheaper than flights on StarAlliance partners. And in business and first class, if you can fly Singapore, you should fly Singapore, because it's blows a lot of the other carriers out of the water. The good news on this devaluation is that they are going to be making it possible to book many of these awards on their website.
Yes.
We don't know what that actually is going to look like, but I feel pretty confident. Singapore seems to be. I don't like that this is very short notice, but in the past, I've liked their communication about things, and they tend not to blow smoke when they say, this is going to be a change that we're making here and there. One of the things that was in one of the posts that I read on this is, just kind of talking about like every other program is always saying that they're enhancing their award program when they raise the prices. And Singapore's communication about this was like, we are raising prices on some awards, and we're also making it possible to book StarAlliance awards online. Not, hey, we're making the program better by charging you more points.
Smuggle through customs in the form of, but that's like the basic economy stuff. We're making travel more affordable. No, you're going to charge me the same thing, and you're going to give me less.
Exactly.
But I appreciate their candor and honesty. But yeah, I mean, this is, I guess, the moral of the story. Not the end of the world, but definitely take advantage if you've got. I mean, the thing that is awesome about Singapore is the transferable points can come in any which way. Yep. They take points from everybody. So
one last thing, we tend to get rushed with the booking service when award booking prices go up every time there's a devaluation. So if you would like some help, definitely sooner rather than later as far as sending in a ticket request, we can start working on this right away. But the last couple of days can be really tricky. And the other thing is that the transfer times, as lots of people are trying to transfer points, slow down. Because Singapore does it manually. I don't know exactly what they do, but somebody runs through and approves these things.
For the next few weeks, they'll definitely see an increased volume in award bookings.
They're going to see a lot of award points being transferred in, so don't leave it. I would say your last day to really think about transferring is the first couple days of December, and then you want to be booking those tickets a few days before. A lot of these awards before the devaluation will need to be booked by phone. Singapore has a great call center. They do a very nice job, but again, hold times are going to be more challenging. There will be lots of people potentially trying to book tickets. So you want to do this, not at the last minute if you can help it. All right. So next up, we've got a few different rewards card offers that are definitely worth mentioning and taking a look at for this week. The first up is the United Mileage Plus Explorer card. This one has been at 40,000 points for quite a while now, and it remains at 40,000, but they made a slight improvement that the annual fee is waived for the first year. And so literally I was looking at it yesterday, and the offer did not have the annual fee waived. So now $95 cheaper to be able to grab these 40,000 points. They've also got a 5,000 point bonus for adding an authorized user. So that gets the bonus up to 45. I'm not sure if that was actually there previously or if that got changed as well. So a little bit more attractive offer there. And when I was looking at this one, I noticed one deal that I wasn't aware of before. So the reason that I have this card and that I keep the United Explorer card is that they give substantially better availability on United flights for people that have a card. And I've noticed, like, we always ask when we do the booking service if the person who has the United account has that card, and it's often like 3 or 4 flights or no flights. So that right there is worth it. Other bonuses that are somewhat useful: a couple of lounge passes. We're here in Austin where there's not very many options for lounges, and having a couple United passes can be good. So 2 of those each year. And the one that I didn't know about is elite upgrades on award tickets for primary cardholders. So if you're an elite flyer with United, in other words, if you buy a ticket and if their seat's up front, they upgrade you based on their priority system, that for almost all programs is just for revenue tickets. You don't get that if you do an award ticket. And so I didn't realize, I don't know how long this has been in effect, but that is a card benefit. So especially if you're an elite flyer with United, and at least one that's a high enough level where you regularly get upgrades on the routes you fly, this could be a nice benefit where you can book a Saver award ticket and be able to have that upgrade availability.
Yeah, that's really nice.
So that's a cool benefit. This card, we've got a link in the show notes. This is not an affiliate one, but if you are under 524 and you've got some of the other ones, this is a card that's restricted by that, but it's a good one to get, because if you go over 524 and you can no longer get access, that hurts you with your United miles and being able to use them on Saver Awards. So one I definitely recommend.
Yeah, we've got a couple hotel offers as well. First one, this is a targeted Amex offer. It's with Hilton, 125,000 points. So if that is something that strikes your fancy, you're going to have to log into your Amex account to see if you got that offer. You got targeted with that offer.
I checked it out this morning. I was targeted for the 125,000 points.
Yeah, and the next hotel card is Marriott. It's kind of a 120,000 point sign up bonus, kind of. So I'm going to compare this against their 80K bonus. So you can earn 120,000 points from this new Marriott offer that they've got out with 10x points on your first $12,000 spent. So you kind of want to just do the calculation on how much money you think you put on the card, if this is even a card you want. For the folks that don't spend a whole lot of money or wouldn't want to channel a bunch of their spending onto a Marriott card, there's also an option to get 80,000 points after $3,000 spend. So I guess that's just kind of a personal preference depending on what's going on with your strategy.
Yeah, and I think with the 80,000, there's also the authorized user benefit where you get another 7,500 for the authorized user. So 87.5 for 3K spend or spend $12,000, but you get a whole year to do that. And it's basically like, if you call Marriott points like 3/4 of a cent each, which I think is maybe pretty fair. That's like 7% spend, cash back on your spend if you use those points for hotels. Next up, we've got a business card from Barclays that until very recently was only available for an application in branch. I actually got a listener question wrong on this one because, maybe I was right 3 days ago, but they've just opened up the application for this card. I've never even seen a Barclays bank in the U.S.
No, me neither.
I don't know where to find a branch. So the Barclay Aviator Business Card is now available, 40,000 points after one purchase and the payment of the $95 annual fee. So personal card's still out there with the 60K after one purchase. Really good offer. Might be a good one to combine with this. Business card doesn't count against you for 524. So pretty interesting opportunity. I would say 40,000 American miles should get you the better part of a round trip close to the U.S. and at least half of a round trip to a lot of destinations.
Pretty much anywhere. Yeah. Final card offer here is a 60,000 point sign-up bonus with a JetBlue card. This card normally hangs out around 30K, 40K. So if that kind of catches your ear to hear 60K, that's a good thing. That's what you want to do. You want to get the offers when they're high as opposed to low. However, I don't know. It's not that sexy of an offer in general. It's some good travel savings, like close to $900 off of JetBlue flights. It's I think the way the math works out too. But considering 524, if you've got some space there, you probably want to stick to Chase.
I just can't get excited about the programs that are equivalent cash. I mean, I get that it's easier but if the price of the flight goes up, then the price in miles goes up. What's the fun in that?
Yeah, I mean, not everyone does it for fun. Some people do it for the result. But yeah, I mean, I hear you there. There's not the arbitrage with JetBlue or with Southwest, but I don't know.
Really, my complaint is I want to see them open up some more international routes. It would be a much different thing if they had mint business class across the Atlantic.
Yeah,
then
I'd
be getting interested.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we've got a few things in the rundown for this week. By the way, before I forget, it recently came to our attention. Thank you to a listener that emailed us that a bunch of the links from last week
about that.
were missing from the show notes page. We got some fixes that we're going to make around our show notes, and all the links will definitely be there for this week's show. So we've got a few that just aren't worth getting into in detail here, but for the rundown, number one, we've got a targeted bonus for American Express membership rewards transferring to Aeroplan. This is one I would absolutely take advantage of personally if I had been targeted for the offer. It looks like about half of people are targeted. It seems like that's what folks are saying. So typically, Amex transfers to Aeroplan at 1-to-1. 20% bonus gives you 1,200 for every 1,000. So this could make your business class ticket booked through Aeroplan quite a bit cheaper. So definitely worth checking to see if you are targeted, especially if you have a lot of Amex points. Next up is a hotel offer. IHG does this a lot. They basically just ended a sale with 100% bonus, and big surprise, they're back with another 100% bonus. There's definitely properties that it could be worth it. So if you're looking at IHG hotels, it might be cheaper to buy points and book the hotel with the points. That's the only real thing to report on that one.
Yeah, another hotel tidbit here is the opportunity to buy choice points for 30% off, which ends up the math works out where you can like buy United miles for 1.18 cents each. That ends tomorrow, November 17th.
All right.
We talked about that last week.
Yes, we did. Definitely listen to last week's show if you are interested in getting a big discount on United miles. Don't have time to rehash, but we got all the information there. Next up, British Airways Avios is offering buy points with 50% bonus. That one ends on the 17th, so not very much time here, but also not very attractive. Most people won't find it super useful. Same idea with American Airlines. This one is a tiered bonus where you don't get the most bonus miles unless you buy like $3,000 or $4,000 worth of points. So again, probably not for most people, but we've got links for the terms. That one expires on November 27th.
Yeah. Just a friendly reminder that the Amex to Virgin Atlantic 30% bonus, that ends November 30th. Keep that in mind. A couple more things. There's an Amex offer where you can earn 5,000 Amex points for $250 to spend with Alaska, which is that's a really good deal. If you're somebody, in particular in the Pacific Northwest, there's a lot of service out there and you're going to buy an Alaska flight, check out and see if you got that offer.
Yeah.
5K Amex points. And then finally, American Airlines is giving away 1 million miles and some other things. I don't know.
They've got a lot of members, so I don't know how many people enter in these kinds of things.
I think it's
I never win.
It's the odds of winning the lottery, and the payoff isn't millions of dollars. But I guess if you're one of those people that summons the universe to produce great lucky results for you,
I think
toss your hat in the ring.
We got some lucky listeners. If that's you, definitely get in on this one. I won't be competing with you.
No, me neither.
All right. So we've got a couple of listener success stories and also one listener question. So first up is from Alessandro. We were talking just recently by text message, and he let me know that he heard the story we did about Air Berlin and that you could redeem Air Berlin miles on Etihad before the roof comes crashing down. And he wanted to let me know that he was successful. He's flying from Europe to Oman on New Year's Eve, was able to get rid of his Air Berlin miles before everything falls apart. He said business class upgrades were not available, but he was able to ticket the reservation and get those miles put to use before they become penny stocks. So great. Congrats to Alessandro, and thanks for sharing. I was skeptical about whether that was actually workable, so it's great news to hear. And I think there's a little bit more time left. I want to say it was the 17th was the deadline.
Yeah, I think technically there's a little bit of time. It's been funny to read comments on blog posts about that, on just some people having some interesting experiences because, it's, the company's, pretty much done. Next up, Recon Scott, he's been a mainstay in the listener feedback. He's given us a bunch of great insights. So what Scott wants to share with everybody is the Priority Pass meal success that he had. So this is good stuff. I'm just going to read his note. So he said, "Hey, you might want to mention to your listeners that Priority Pass has recently been adding relationships with some restaurants in addition to lounges. At a Priority Pass affiliated restaurant, you'll get a $28 credit each for food and drink, as well as your authorized guests." So in his instance, Amex Platinum allows 2 authorized guests. So that potential credit is $84 at the participating restaurant. So to kind of sum up the end of it, Scott, his wife and daughter recently got back from Denver. Priority Pass has partnered with a steakhouse there, and they actually double dipped it on the way in and on the way out. They hit it up for that credit. So you want to make sure that you are, find a restaurant that is actually participating with Priority Pass, so you're not left with a tab you weren't ready to pay. And I also appreciate, Scott, thank you very much for your thoughts for the folks in the service industry, as he puts it. Of course, at Priority Pass only restaurants, and you ought to leave an appropriate tip for your waiter.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's really a Grinch move if you save $80 on your tab and then you leave a
$2 tip.
$2 tip because that's what you. Anyways, thanks very much, Scott. So last one here is a listener question. This one was about. So I think we mentioned this on a previous show, but Citi has sold their Hilton Honors portfolio to Amex. So they've now dropped the relationship with Hilton. They're actually dropping Hilton as a transfer partner on December 12th as well. So the Citi and Hilton relationship's going away. And instead of just closing those cards or trying to convert them to a different card within Citi, they've sold that portfolio over to American Express.
That's interesting.
And so if you have the Citi Hilton Honors card, your card will, I believe the date is January 18th, your card will become an American Express card. The question was, is 524 an issue for this? And the answer is, unfortunately, we don't really know, because it's possible that Amex will backdate the account on your credit report. So if you opened it in 2008 or whatever, and it becomes a new Amex card, Amex will report that this is the same account they got from Citi that came from 2008. So that's the good scenario. But there's no guarantee, and probably not even a likelihood, that that's going to happen. So what American Express may also do is say, AJ just opened up a new Amex Hilton card, even though it's not technically a new account.
That's complete bullshit. Like, I'm just thinking about as far as like an impact on your credit score goes. You trusted the big bank and you opened a credit card and you didn't do anything,
and now
they sold you, and not to mention that you get a little ding on your credit report for opening a new. Like,
I don't think it's gonna. I don't think you get the inquiry ding. Okay. But I do think that what Chase looks at for 524 is how many cards you've opened in the last 2 years, and if Amex calls the date of the open card,
and that's the problem. You got sold out, and because of that, your borrowing options may be limited because of something that just wasn't your fault.
So what do you do? The short answer is that you need to cancel your Citi account before they have a chance to sell you off down the river to Amex on January 18th. Now, if you're well past the 524 and that's not an issue for you, I would actually recommend keeping this account open and having a nice little negotiation when you arrive wherever Amex is dragging you out of the river, and ask them to give you something nice in exchange for keeping your business, because they definitely paid a lot of money for this portfolio of cards. And to me, that means that when you call the reconsideration line, you say, hey, Amex, Citi just informed me that I'm now your customer. I wanted to see how you guys act. And, honestly, I don't know if I want to keep this card open. I'm thinking about closing it. Mention those words. And I would guess that there's some pretty nice compensation in order to try and preserve those account holders, have Amex start off on the right foot with new members. So if 524 isn't an issue, you might, give it a shot and have a little negotiation conversation with Amex, see if you can get something from them.
Would there be any other Citi products that it would make sense to try to, move your credit to?
No, and especially because with Citi, they've got this rule where within a card family, you can't open and close a card for 24 months before getting a new account. So just think about whatever card you want to transition into, it might also negatively impact your ability to open a new card and get a sign-up bonus. So the one thing that you can do if you don't want to deal with this 524 thing and you want to shut down the Citi card, move your line of credit to another account you have with Citi, if at all possible.
Right.
Or open a new card with Citi if you're eligible, especially for the Citi Advantage card, the Platinum Select.
Yeah.
Amazingly good offer right now at 60,000 points. So that's a good way where if you know you're going to shut down this Hilton card and you don't already have another card that's a personal card that you can move your line of credit to, that's another option there. Definitely thank you for the question. I'm not sure who actually sent this one in, but it was a really interesting one. It took me a bit of research to find the answer, but I think the answer is that it's going to hurt you on 524 if you don't close that out.
That's a bummer.
All right, that is going to do it for this week's show. Thank you, everybody, for being with us. We are going to be off the air next week. It is Thursday of Thanksgiving. I hope everybody has a safe and happy Thanksgiving weekend.
As our Brazilian friend Andre puts it, have a good chicken holiday.
Have a good chicken holiday. And travel safe if you're traveling next week. It can be chaotic, but hopefully that gets you connected to friends and family. We will see you the week after Thanksgiving. I'd love to see lots of you sign up and join us in the Broaders community.
We'll see you on the inside at broaders.com/community.
All right. Hey, Broaders, don't be shy. Hop over to the website and join our email list for exclusive travel hacking content. If you like what we're up to, the best way you can support the show is by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. Lastly, we would love to hear from you, so send your show